Hello, welcome to the Toronto Ultra Merk and Maven podcast. Here for another phenomenal episode, and today we have James Eubanks, Clayster. Sir, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, guys. How about you?
I'm doing well. Weather's beautiful. It's been vibing, chilling. Honestly, not much going on.
I'm a dad, so my life's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I'm just proud of Maven. He's getting sun. You look a little sunburned as well, so I'm very happy with that. You know, just taking care of your health. We're worried about your age now. You're getting to that point. I'm gonna keep talking about it every single episode. But yeah, Clay, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, his head's looking a little red. I don't know if that's just maybe the reflection or something, but you definitely were out there. You were okay. You were out there for a while, huh?
He's like a solar panel on his face.
My only lighting I have in here, because I pull up, I'm so close to my monitor, and I pull up like our script, and it's just like a white Google Doc. So it's just like, yeah, looks like I'm getting flashbanged.
No, it used to be worse when you didn't have color because you looked like Voldemort.
But like sexy Voldemort, I think.
I'll co-sign that, sexy Voldemort.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I actually vibe with that. But listen, Joe and I were joking that with you, we could do 6 of these. Honestly, you've had one of the longer careers, obviously, like the longest, and then also all the fucking bullshit you've gone through over the years. Like we could literally have like 5 to 10 episodes, but we're gonna cut it down to what we can
each year. Yeah, we could probably do an hour episode.
If there's anyone who wants to make a documentary out there, you know, we could make like a 15-part series, like a little mini series, sell it to HBO or something. All right, come on. You know what I'm saying?
I was joking. I was watching. Kelly hadn't seen The Last Dance, so I was rewatching that, and I was like, I want like every major personality in every single field just have a documentary company that follows them around at all times. Like, I know it sucks for them, but that's what I need, because I love that shit. Like, it's so good.
There's some good content for sure.
It's just like they're popping up everywhere. It's so popular. Like after the Drive to Survive, now you have like the golf one, the tennis one. Like I think people are getting more and more invested in that. So I just want that for everything.
Yeah, I got to start the golf one. I haven't started it yet. Is it good? Have you watched any of it?
I've heard it's great. I haven't watched it yet.
I watched it. It's great. Yeah. I mean, it does its job, which is like people. I think they're trying to like get the younger generation into golf. You know, it's it's definitely an older sport, but showing the personalities off. I mean, it's awesome. It's the same people that do Drive to Survive. So
yeah, any good competitive environment, like you got to get to know the characters and the personalities, and anybody who knows how to put together a good story behind that. I mean, it's just good content. People watch it. It's entertaining. I'll have to check it out.
That's why, dude. Cobb would be. I thought we were doing that at one point. Cobb would be great, because if we might not be doing a lot of shit right, but we got the personalities right. Like, what was the one thing we did for a little bit? Yeah, what was the
Recon? I think it was called
Recon for a bit. I don't remember what happened.
It was like 3 or 4 teams every like event.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was cool, but also kind of annoying on game days, having to like, all right, you got to meet the Recon guys at 9 a.m. in the hotel lobby. They're going to take you to the event. They're going to follow you in the car. They're going to be in front of you in the Uber. You got to wait till they get out. Then they'll film you getting out. It's like, okay, I got a match to play. Screw your documentary.
It should just be, hey, this is a camera guy, and he's going to follow you around, and they'll turn it off when you have to pee. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, well, now you hear how annoying it is from his side, but I don't give a fuck. I want that with everyone. All right, let's get into it then, because we got a lot of shit to go through. So we kind of ask everybody this that comes on, and Clay, I know you've been around forever, but I'm always curious to hear the how. Like when was the first one you kind of got into COD? Started playing COD. Like what was it?
Yeah, so it was actually kind of an interesting story. I mean, I've been a gamer my whole life. Even growing up, when I was a kid, my dad was on like the technology curve. So we had like 2 PCs in our house. We had 2 phone lines, so we could be on the phone while we were on the internet at the same time. So we were always very like from when I was a kid on the video game curve. And I was a huge Xbox fan. I played a ton of Halo, and Halo 1, Halo 2. I was addicted to Halo 2 because it was the first like console experience I got to play where you're online multiplayer with a headset on, playing Xbox Live back in the day. And I was like a Halo fanboy through and through. I hated COD. I thought COD was for noobs. I was like, I'll never touch that game.
The same way.
And slowly but surely, it was the old battle. If you remember that battle, that you are ancient.
That was the old battle.
And I was so against it, and Call of Duty 4 came out in 08, I believe it was, 07, around there. And my friend specifically left it over at my house after he came and hung out one time because he knew I would play it that night if he just like left it there. And I remember it was like the first time I picked it up, I put it in, I played a headquarters, and it was on Crossfire and Call of Duty 4, and I went off. And I remember just that moment clicked in my head where I was like, oh, wow, this is like a lot of fun. You know, like it was just like first game on, because I was already kind of competent on Halo, so just immediately loading into a pub back in that day, everyone was so bad. So if you were just like even kind of good, you could just go drop, you know, streaks on him over and over. And so I just remember there was that one moment in that first pub after my friend left it in my house, and like he started a now 15, 16 year long journey where I'm still here playing this game.
Awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how, you know, your story's a lot like mine in the sense of, I was a big Halo guy. I was even commentating Halo, and I thought COD was.
Well, his is a little different, man. He won a lot.
Well, true. Yeah, they're very different there. But I mean, like, it took a while I always thought COD looked like shit. I did. It just looked like so fast, and like how fast you died. I was like, nah, it's not for me. But then I don't know. Eventually, it sort of grew on me.
Yeah, I think we all started there, or at least I was around like that Xbox Live time. It was like the big three. It was like Halo, Gears, and COD, and it was like you could just play all three of them depending on what you liked. It was like that was the best, the glory days, So what? And then what? Competitive COD for you, starting COD 4, right? You played PCLs, AOX, S&D.
Yeah.
I guess
that history not a lot of people
that?
know about. Like the old GB days back in like the PCLs with AOX. Like if you like, some people know who AOX is and like Art of Execution, but we were really ahead of the times in search. I really do feel like we weren't like as strong of a respawn team as even like you and some of your teams were, and other people in that era. But I think we really started setting the standard for how Search and Destroy should be played on like a competitive level on console, at least. Because like, you know, Pro Mod was kind of around at the same time, but there was like so no different crossover. Like we didn't really like pay attention to them. They didn't pay attention to us. So it was honestly just like one of those experiences where I worked my way up GB teams until I became quote unquote known. Like I remember when I was nobody playing with my real life friends, just like trying to get on the top 100 teams on game battles. And then from there, I messaged like the top 50 teams, like, hey, give me a tryout. And then just from there, you just keep building and finding good players and bringing them with you and making a new team and finding good players. And then eventually we had a team that was like, oh, wait, we're like one of the best in the world now. Like, and then it's like, oh, we can team with all these great players now. And the pool of players we can now team with has expanded greatly because we're considered good. And it was just getting that consideration to be good, I think, was the hardest part. And I mean, you went through it too, Joe. Like, just getting known was the hardest part back in the day.
Yeah, I think really we only knew like there was like the fear guys, the envy guys. You had like people just typing on the forums about like how good these players were. I mean, GB forums is another just absolute.
Thank God all that was deleted because
that was a scary place for everyone. I mean, talk about roasting just behind avatars forever. But like that was really it. Like you heard like whispers of like Halifax and you know these guys that were like winning PCLs. You were trying to get into eights and you would just like spectate the old eights lobbies, but like never sniffed it. Did you win it all in COD 4? Did you go to nationals at all in COD 4? Did you go to Nats?
So I didn't go to Nats in COD 4 because I got banned. So not a lot of people know that about me too. I got banned twice in Call of Duty for years long. And you know, there's actually like it's funny we talk about forums and just all of that and stuff because you know I'm not sure 100 Thieves would be here today if those forums were accessible because we used to go wild on that place and not just everybody. You know, I think it was the wild west back then for sure. And I remember I started competing. The first like actual PCL I played in was the third one in 08. So the last one of 2008. And we made it to the bracket and got like top 16 or top 12 or something like that. It was me and just like some guys I found on GB. And then in 09, I was banned all of 09 because of something happened with the crown. And if people don't know what this is, back in the old Game Battles day, the number one team got a crown. And if you beat them, you got the crown. And then anybody who beat you got the crown. And I like did this weird, I lost to a team and then didn't report it, gave the crown to my buddy so we could keep it like in our circle. And they banned me for a year for that because it was like
a year?
A year. And I had to write like an essay to GB Stealth about why I should get unbanned going into MW2. And if I wouldn't have got unbanned, and like Fwiz was involved in the GB fraud squad, he said he had all this documentation on me evading bans and all this stuff. So it was funny because I didn't care about being banned. Or the money because I couldn't make any money all of 09. I played in every PCL on Xbox Place. I played in every single PCL just ringing for teams. I just wanted to compete. I wanted to play. Right. I wanted to just like have fun. And like I got high placements in a lot of these teams, like in the playoffs, but I just couldn't get any money because I was evading bans just ringing on random accounts.
Oh, it's so funny too because like the crown, Like that was just on like the regular ladder.
Yeah,
like that
so it was
wasn't
just
even.
like didn't
It was
mean
literally
anything.
like it was because at a moment you could accept matches, you could see who was playing. So like teams were like avoiding playing against other good teams to stay on the front page. So they introduced the crown. So like you would challenge them. Like that was it. It was like basically a way. Yeah, it had nothing to do with competing at all. But that's crazy. So then your first tournament was the same as mine, MW2, right? Then
Yep,
MW2
MW2
Nationals.
Nats. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. Okay. I mean, Maven really just wants to know. So we'll go through MW2. You didn't play Black Ops 1. You took a break. Or like I saw you at like an event or two. You just did it for fun, I think.
Yeah, so the career path in this whole time period is a little like a lot of people don't really understand what happened. But so like '09 I was banned. I got unbanned in 2010. Competed and then won a PCL, the first one on Xbox with Clayster and Circa and Nex actually. We won a PCL together. And this was right as when like PlayStation and Xbox were coming out at the same time. And we were playing like both ladders on Xbox and PlayStation. So we were switching controllers back and forth all the time. And then we go into Black Ops 1, and I had a good team. It was me, Clayster, Diz, and Twiz. And we were actually really good at the beginning of Black Ops 1. We qualified for the GameStop tournament, which is like was the only good tournaments back then. There was like, like $10,000 you could win. And then Clayster ended up quitting the game. And Clayster, for people who don't know, was like my duo. He was the one who was like the leader of the team. He controlled all the teammates. He handled all the business, like the meat and potatoes of like, everything basically. And so when he quit, I was kind of just like, oh, well, I don't really know what's going on. I qualified for this tournament, but like I don't really want to play. And so then like Diz and Twiz left, and I was going to college at the time. So I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to just enjoy college. It's my freshman year. I'm going to just like have fun. I went and played at like Dallas with Brian Saint, Historify, and Reg Nasty. There's like an old school team called Fly Society I played on. And then when they announced Call of Duty XP for Modern Warfare 3, Obey decided to pick me up once he qualified. Obey Breezy in Modern Warfare 3. And that was like the first $1 million tournament for COD. And
I forgot you were there because you ended up beating like Proof in them, right?
Yeah, we beat
some
Proof,
TDM
Assassin.
overtime.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I went to like the last event of BO1, which was like Raleigh, or one of the last ones, because MW3 Call of Duty XP was like the following month. And we went to MW3 Call of Duty XP, and it was the first $1 million tournament. The settings, it was pre-release, crazy, like we're playing TDM. And we ended up upsetting the favorites of the tournament first round. We ended up placing top 6 in the tournament. I made $12,500 as a sophomore in college, and that was like a validation moment for me, where I'm like, oh wait, I can make
a ton of money when you're a poor college student.
Dude, a ton. I was the man, dude.
Go back to campus with dollar beers. I got everybody. Dude, I got everyone.
Literally, everyone's drinking on me tonight for $40, and everyone's like freaking out. And it's like, dude, I got a lot more $40. Dude, so that whole time period from like MW2 to MW3 was kind of like I was on and off, not really fully committing. It was kind of like I was playing when the opportunity arose, but if stuff got hectic in my life and I was really like busy with work or school or something else, I'd kind of just like put it on the back burner.
Yeah, nobody really knew what this was going to turn into. Then that's why we went to school. Then we get to Black Ops 2. I think everybody wants to know about Black Ops 2, the ponytail. Everyone, I got to hear that you just had the ponytail. You were just letting it rock.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people know this about me, but I used to. Jeez, the picture.
I put it in the script just because I wanted to see it again. That's it.
This specific look is not how I normally looked, first of all. Like, it looks goofy, first off. I have 5 headsets on. We're wearing, like, a sponsor headset, surround sound, earbuds. We got 17 wires everywhere, okay? The glasses definitely could have used some work. I was wearing the nerd wireframes, and I had this weird stubble. It was right as I was starting to grow facial hair. I was a very late bloomer, okay?
We all had the blunder years. We've all been there.
And honestly, it was Fike. If you guys know who Fike is, he convinced me to keep the facial hair for this event, and it looks terrible. I can't believe he didn't tell me to shave it or do something. And honestly, this look is just not it. I was experimenting a lot.
But it's iconic.
It is iconic. I'll give it that. I had that ponytail for 2 years. It was long. My hair was down to like here. Like if I let it down, it was like long. And I used to experiment with my hair all the time. I actually had dreadlocks once upon a time. There's not a single picture of me on the internet. It was before, like, you know, I really got popular. And if anyone can dig a picture of me up with dreadlocks, I will give you like $1,000 because there's none on the internet. I've made sure of that, you know. And I always just like to mix it up, do different things. And the ponytail with the long hair was just my vibe at the time, man. I mean, it's you know. Iconic.
I didn't really need anything from that part. I just wanted to see the picture again. Really, just because that's like my first memory of you is like foul and ponytail. Like when I think of switching over from like Halo to like COD, like ponytail and like you with the foul. That's like the two things that like comes to mind. But where I wanted to like kind of start the wackiness of your road, because I know there was all that stuff leading into it, and it was crazy, but it was before like you really became you. With Black Ops 2, I thought the one thing that I just want to hear the why behind it. I always thought funny, like right before the Complexity Dynasty, I always thought your Black Ops 2 Champs team was the funniest thing to me. Because somehow it ended up being you, Gunshi, Shane, and Tommy, all EU players, and you guys got top 24, so you were ass. But like, how did that even come together?
Yeah, I mean, I love all those guys. Let me say that first. But if you could point to one thing in my career that's probably like my biggest regret in terms of how I went about it, is probably that choice. And not because they were like awful or like whatever. It was just a very weird time. Like I qualified for champs with 3 people who couldn't play. And then it was a very weird situation where there was only a couple free agents that I really wanted to team with that could have worked. One of them being Dito, one of them being John, who is like the John 287 that was just recently playing. But my roster lock was extended, so I had like 3 weeks to find teammates since I had to find 3 players. But all the other teams who only had like 1 kid on their team who they needed to replace for champs had their roster lock like 2 weeks shorter than mine. So then Dito, John, all these people got offers like before I had settled on what I was trying to do with the team, and so they took them obviously because they have an opportunity to go play at champs. These people who didn't qualify.
No, you got to find 3 versus people finding 1. It's just you're in a
exactly.
Tough spot. Like,
and
so, it was a weird time.
It was, and there was very few rosters. I remember one of them was like Silly, Shills, and Enzo. That was like one of the rosters I was going to potentially do. One of them was like Hex P, which was like, I can't remember exactly who was on the team at the time. It was like, I think some combination of like Gucci and Chino or somebody around back in the day.
I think
like,
I messaged you because we were worried about Seth at some point.
Yeah, because Seth got blessed and they changed the rules for him to play. And nobody will admit that, but it was just all of a sudden, 17-year-olds can play. Oh, look, he can play.
John played too, right?
John played too, right?
Yeah, he did. And so it was a combination. I had like 3 or 4 different rosters to pick from. And those 3 European guys, they had competed at COD XP and gotten like top 8 placements. And at the time, that was important to me that they had the experience playing for that amount of money because it was like a big deal back then. Like now, people come in, you expect them to be ready to play for 200 grand a tournament, $1 million a tournament. You know what I'm saying? But back then, my choice was because I was like, these guys have played at COD XP last year. They have experienced the pressure, and I think like they're probably the best solution for the best placement here because they have like the experience for it. But what I didn't think about is we couldn't practice because I was on 140 ping. And so, or they were on 140 ping playing NA team. So we literally didn't scrim. There was no like pre-scrim before the tournament or anything. We didn't have a little ballroom to warm up in or anything. It was just like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? Like, let's, we went over call outs. Let's try and win a BO3. And it was just hard. It was tough. Sure. And it was probably the worst, like, oversight that I had when I was creating like a really important roster. I mean, dude, I won so many events in Black Ops 2 and at champs I got top 24.
I mean, it did work out afterwards.
It did work out. I'll take it.
It's just weird when you look at like where you start to blow up in Black Ops 2 and then what follows that. It's just funny when you look at that on like your tournament results. It's just like I don't know. It just looks so weird. So I just want to kind of hear the why behind it. But yeah, Joe, you kind of said after that changes a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Complexity. That starts the Dynasty. They drop too quick. They bring in you. Anaheim's the first event for you guys. You guys are kind of like the heroes at the time. It's crazy how quick that changed because you guys were like, you took down Impact and then it all. I mean, yeah, it got I don't know. You guys were the bad guys all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people don't realize the relationships I had with the guys on Complexity beforehand. Like, I remember the night after it was like Sunday night at that Black Ops 2 Champs, and Pat hit me up to come to my hotel room. We got to talk. And you remember back in the day when you get those kind of texts, it was like, oh, we're scheming, we're sketching. We're sketching. And so I just remember that feeling. I was just like, oh my gosh, like finally, like my opportunity with like people who believe in me, because I was considered washed in Black Ops 2 because I'd taken so much time off. Everyone's like, oh, you're washed in Black Ops 2. You know, this is 2013. And so that's why I ended up with that Unite team at that first event, was because it was like a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds that nobody wanted to play with. And I was like, sure, I'll take the chance. So from the start, you know, it's really been me taking chances. And I played with Crim in Call of Duty 4 on game battles, and I played with Aches in Modern Warfare 2 and a bunch of the PCLs. His gamer tag was Trickster, because he wanted to like Patrick, like Trickster, and he wanted to like be like me, you know. So Aches loves me, and so I had a lot of history with those guys. And so joining the team with like established people like Crim, Aches, Teep, who I was just kind of meeting because he was like a PlayStation kid more so before he came over, and I was just so excited to get to work with them. And that Anaheim event, the energy just like shifted in how I thought about the game, how I interpreted like how practice works, kind of how you determine results. Like I started getting a lot more logical about the game, because beforehand I was kind of just playing, you know, like we were just playing, set up top grandmas, you know, with a Jug M16.
Shoot.
Yeah,
don't miss.
Yeah, don't miss, right?
Don't miss.
So when we actually had to start thinking and being like, okay, hard point, you know, capture the flag, like, you know, how do we bump streaks? How do we like actually, you know, and then S&D on top of that. And I really started thinking about the game at like a professional level. And it's funny how you say, like, you know, we were the heroes at Anaheim. The whole crowd was behind us. It took about like 2 more events before the crowd was just like, boo, boo.
Shut up, Pat, probably. Patney, and, you know, listen, crowd pleasers.
It's just like, and also I know how that feels. Like, you know, when you watch the same team win over and over and over, it's like, okay, somebody else win. You know, that's why even us losing at PAX, like to Embos and Nameless, who never let me live it down. You know, it was such a big deal, even though it was for like barely any money, and like we weren't even taking it that serious. It was one of like a small tournament, but in the grand scheme of things, looking back now, it's like, dang, we probably should have taken that a little more serious to keep this streak going. But we were kind of like, oh, this doesn't really matter that much. But now people are like, oh, well, you did lose that one, you know?
Yeah, and they remind you all the time. I'm sure of it. Yeah, I'm sure of it. Then I kind of starts to, I mean, things get a little crazy. I don't know if many people know kind of the story with Complexity, how it ended, but what you guys win the first Ghost event, right?
Yep, to make it 4 in a row.
4 in a row, and then bang, Karma for you comes in, and it kind of starts this sort of, I mean, we'll get to more of it, but just, I don't know, just bad luck, wrong place, wrong time, whatever it is. But I guess with like the Cole Dynasty, was it just personalities? I don't even know what the hell it was.
Honestly, like, especially now, looking back on it all, and being able to, like, you know, have much more fulfilling and bigger relationships with these people outside of the game, like Aches and Mr. X and Teep and Crim, like who we were and the relationships we had then was very, like, we were Complexity, you know. We weren't friends. Like Clay and Ian weren't friends, you know what I'm saying? Clay and Pat weren't friends. It was more so like we were like teammates. And after all the success we had seen, the entire way through, I was kind of like the punching bag in a way, where people would just kind of like say, like Crim, especially back then, Pat back then, very hard to work with. And I would just like take it all in and not really fight back. And I think towards the end of it, of my stint on Complexity, I started getting a little more confidence in myself, and getting a little bit of an ego, and kind of like being like, wait, why are you talking to me like that? You know, and kind of fighting back a little more. And it reached pretty much a boiling point when Ghost came out and we did the Machinima Marathon. And I felt very left out with like their group. Like, it was literally like the rest of the team would like go, we were doing this race to prestige for Machinima.
And
and they would all like go do their shifts together. They would stay there for each other's 8-hour shifts and then give me like the 4 a.m. to noon shift. And they would all
They're
come
all
like,
sleeping.
yeah, they're all sleeping and I'd go do it by myself. And so then I got really sick and then I started like getting really angry with them. And they had some made up story that they loved to tell where I was saying I was sick and I was like smoking a cigar by the pool, like drinking a drink or something, which never happened. I had bronchitis and a sinus infection. I went to the doctor, you know, like it wasn't like I was faking it or anything, right? And that started this whole series of then just being like, I don't know. I felt like even though we were still playing well and even though we went on to win the tournament, there was still just kind of like an edge to it where it was like the pieces weren't fitting together anymore. We were kind of always at each other's necks. We were kind of like, they would make a comment and then I'd be like, you know, Crim was trying to play in this Battlefield tournament. And I was like, Crim, go fly a fucking jet, dude. Like, get the fuck off the game.
That,
you know,
like version one or whatever, the fake one for $1 million? Yeah, I remember that.
A fake one, yeah.
And so we just got chippy with each other. And I think that chippiness eventually boiled over when they realized they could find a replacement. And so then I think that's really the essence of what happened. It was like I kind of started defending myself a little more. They weren't really taking too kindly to that. And TP's left out of this equation completely. I fucking love TP. He was completely neutral. He was on my side.
He's like, all of these guys are crazy, dude. He does it now with us, so we get it, dude. It's the same way. We're doing some crazy shit. He's just like, oh, thanks for the 5 gifted. All right, got it.
Somebody buy a UAV? Oh, okay.
Same shit.
Well, that like I think what I want to kind of go through. I mean, we're not going to go year by year. We'll be here till fucking June. But like that was sort of I don't know if I call that an unfortunate circumstance in the sense of like, you know, it was a vibe thing, it was personality conflict, whatever. But like you and Crim, many consider like the GOAT because all of his wins. You and Crim are on that team at that time. And then it's like from that was like the first in a series of like unfortunate events where I feel like despite your like ability and size, you struggled to like find a home. And granted, that's rare, but major sports, you know, like a Tim Duncan plays for the Spurs his entire career. There's no one like, it's like Seth is probably the only person that's like done that really is like in this home. But you like were after Seth when it comes to like popularity and probably like ability back then, like you're in that conversation of you probably could have been like the staple somewhere and won should have been and won like a bajillion tournaments. But like, it's just, I kind of want to get into like all the shit that went down. It's like you get dropped for karma after a win. So that's the first thing. It's like, okay, sick, we won a tournament and then I get dropped. But then like it becomes this whole, I get dropped and I have to find ways to rebuild and win for basically the next for fucking ever. So right after that is what? That goes to the denial squad, right? After or gets the denial squad eventually?
Yeah, we get there eventually. Me and Joey had a little stint together, you know.
That's right, yeah.
Before
We were awful. We were so dumb.
Bad. Nameless made me run a sub so he could run main AR.
Listen,
let's not forget that.
Like, yeah, also dumb. But like, I don't really have. I'm not gonna explain it too long. Pretty much, we had a very successful Ghost here. We're like, Formal wants to leave. We're like, screw it. We'll just get another main AR and Clay. He was really good, but we didn't play a boots on the ground game. I mean, I joke about it all the time. But Clay could fucking confirm. We were literally throwing smokes in private matches at AW. Like, we were so far to the opposite side of what game we were fucking playing that it didn't even matter. We were just lost. Like, we were just 4 boots on the ground players who played boots on the ground for 6 years. And now we're playing the most cracked out game ever. It didn't work. We all sucked. It is what it is. It worked out for Clay again. That's all that matters. He won a ring. That's it. He had to rebuild. I sucked. Ant sucked. Cap was on the team too. He got to win a ring as well.
Yeah, I think it was like, honestly, if you look at it, like you're talking about how a series of unfortunate events or just like not ever being the actual guy on an org mave. Like, I think, first of all, there's a common denominator in all of that, and it's me, right? And I think self-accountability is something that I've learned a lot over the last 10 years, and something that I think has helped me grow and mature a lot in just not only how I play the game, how I approach the game, but how I communicate to my teammates and how I offer like criticism to my teammates, how I motivate them, when is the right time to tear them down. And I think I struggled with that a lot, like especially after the Cole Dynasty, because I was so sure of myself and so confident in my abilities that I was kind of just like, you need to listen to me, you know, like I was very just aggressive with it and very cutthroat with it, where it's like, you either doing it my way or I'm just going to bitch at you, you know? And I think that I learned a lot about how to be a leader since then. And you look at all, like, you know, the Denial Squad, right? Like, it was a team of scraps, you know, nobody wanted to team with, and we put our heads down and we got to work. And I think that, like, chip on the shoulder type of dog mentality that has followed me throughout my entire career has been a very big motivating factor. I think, like, I'm not sure I would have seen the success that I've seen if I didn't put those chips on my shoulder, even when they're, like, made up. Like, you hear about Jordan in The Last Dance, you brought it up, talking about how he just made up that some guy was talking shit about him just to feel like, you know, oh, I got a chip on my shoulder, like I have something against you. And, like, I do that. I've done that my entire career, just, like, drum stuff up, made rivalries out of stuff that was pretty insignificant if I didn't, like, continue to bring it up, you know? And I think that you look at the success and the fit, like the not having a home as an org. Like, I've tried to find an org to call home my entire career, and it's just like constant revolving door. And you see little stints, like it was Undenial, and then, oh, we can go play for FaZe. Like, that's a no-brainer. We're going to go play for FaZe, right? We go on FaZe, we see some success, you know, all that stuff, and then it's like, okay, well, now I got traded to United. I tried to make it on United. I was there for years with the Twins. We were building something crazy. Won champs, get dropped because they didn't make franchising.
Well, well, I don't want to cut you off, but you're going through like basically everything I talk about. Well, I'm going to separate these real quick because I feel like United. All right, Denial thing was whatever. That org ended up being make believe, and whatever happened with that. But like the unfortunate stuff. Like, I know you said you're taking like a self reflection, but like
it's
United
just unlucky.
United doesn't make franchising. Like, okay, you like got fucked. 5v5 goes to 4v4 when Empire could have been something. Like, you got fucked. But like, I guess I view the FaZe one was probably the one that like had a chance, and like with your success in AW, had you guys managed to like continue that probably into Black Ops 3, like it may have really become something special. But I think what Joe and I were sort of wanting to know is like maybe what fell apart there, because that's probably the situation where you maybe weren't fucked by like some weird circumstance like United and Empire. Like the FaZe thing could have, but like it's just you went from dominating to like Black Ops 3.
Honestly, it's like that FaZe team was awesome. Like, I love all of those guys to this day. I talk to them at least, you know, once a month. You know, like I genuinely have good relationships with all of the teammates I had on FaZe, and even a couple of the owners and stuff like that at FaZe. Like, I was playing a CS game literally like last night or the night before, and Tommy Temper was playing too, and he hit me up, and we were about to game together and stuff. And it's like I still maintain those connections over at FaZe with some of the guys who I do appreciate over there. And we had so much success so early, and coming off of the, you know, champs, and then me and Attach, kind of the Denial team, we did okay afterwards. We got like a second, but then we were getting like a top 6, and then we went to X Games, got top 6 again. And it's kind of like, okay, we need to go kind of like team with people that we want to team with. Yeah. And being able to team with Zuma and Enable was just like a dream come true at the time. It just felt like we were finally putting together a team to contest the Optic team that they had formed after we beat them at champs, where they're like, all right, Matt, you know, like we're bringing in somebody who could shoot. And genuinely, you had to just match firepower for firepower in AW. You just had to be like
everybody. Like it was like it just you had to be able to.
Top down, you had to outshoot them. Like, you just had to be able to outshoot. And that is such like a old school like style of thought now. Like, very rarely do you want to tell your teammates, hey, we just need more kills in like today's COD. But back then in AW was like, dude, you need more kills. Like, you need to be able to kill that. If you can't keep up, you can't keep up. And so then we rattled off a bunch of tournaments and went back to back in AW, and then BO3 hit, and everybody lumps jetpacks together, but like AW was a lot different than Black Ops 3. Like,
just the verticality alone,
a lot different. And even the speed of the game, the responsiveness of the mechanics, and like wall running and the boost in BO3, how it compared to like the dash you had in AW. And it was just like hard for us to adapt. And I think like we were all good enough players, but I just think in Black Ops 3, we just weren't good enough. Like our structure, our foundation, like Zuma's trying to play at light speed, and I'm just camping. Like it was very difficult for us to adapt to Black Ops 3, and we didn't do bad. Like we had like some respectable finishes, top 6s, top 4s, I think.
Just never got the win, right?
Yeah, we just never got the win. We were competing, but we just like weren't better than like 4 or 5 teams at every tournament. And so it was just kind of like, whatever, hopefully the next game is going to be our deal. And this is something that we were experimenting with then during this time as well, like through Black Ops 3, is like we want to stick together and figure out our problems. Like we want to work through issues.
It was a big deal then.
It was a big deal, and it was something that we were kind of like testing because everybody else was kind of making fun of us for it a little bit and be like, dude, you guys aren't winning. You need to make a roster change. And we were kind of like, we believe in each other. We believe in the process. We're all living in a house together pretty much. Like, hey, let's, let's come together and do this thing. And so then that's why we stuck it into IW as well. It's just like, hey, it's a new game. Maybe that game just wasn't for us. Maybe we can do something in IW. We started off kind of promising winning PSX, but there was like a bunch of the top teams not at that tournament. It was like a Tostinos type of event. Yeah. And it was, we tried. We got like a second place, I think, at a tournament in Paris.
Right?
Yeah,
that's when you threw the medal.
And when people said I threw the medal, I hit a guy in the head, cracked it open, he had to go to the hospital. Bro, I took it off and threw it in my chair. And people were like...
you hit me right in the face. I'm just kidding. I wasn't even there.
That tournament was insanely frustrating, and the replay and everything that happened back then, especially because we hadn't won in so long. It was like kind of like, hey, we made a grand final again, and we kind of felt like we got screwed over a little bit. So it was super frustrating. And I think Jasper, who was a FaZe fitness guy at the time, still has my medal. Like, I didn't take it. He picked it up and he took it. Like, he's like, do you want this? I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that fucking thing. I think he kept it still.
He's just hanging on to it. And someone's like, yo, bro, is that yours? Did you compete back then? He's like, yeah, I did actually.
You see the medal?
Yo, I'm in FaZe for a reason, bro. Like,
and then we progressed through the season a little bit. We get to Anaheim in Black Ops 3 and hit like the biggest roadblock we had hit. Basically, Zuma had the ganglion cyst or whatever on his wrist, and so he started losing like mobility in his wrist, or it started hurting or something like that. And so he was having to get it drained and stuff like this, like a surgery done on it, but it wasn't like removed yet. And then the day I flew out to the event, I got a root canal done and was on like a lot of painkillers because it was like an impacted abscess root canal. It was a whole ordeal. My face was swollen. And so we go to this tournament where Zuma's got something going on with his wrist. I'm on a bunch of painkillers. So like, if you've seen anybody on fucking painkillers, it's like you're not well suited to play Call of Duty at a very high speed.
That's crazy because I had that the day before I flew to Ghost Champs. I had an abscess. I had to get a root canal. Literally.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I was just saying, screw it. I got this. Antibiotics and I don't know whatever else they put me on. Yeah, it's unreal.
It wasn't fun, and we got slammed. It was bad. Like I remember we played Spacely one time, and he's just. You look over, you just see all 4 of these kids, and they're just screaming at you. Their eyes are fucking huge, screaming, spit flying everywhere, and I'm sitting there like, holy smokes! Like I can't, like I'm not prepped for this right now. Like I cannot respond, and we bomb out, and it was just like we tried so hard, and we were trying to get back, and now we're in the middle of the season, and we're back here again. And even though all this stuff was going on, it was just kind of like we all talked about it, and it was probably the first time on any team I've been on where all 4 of the teammates talked to each other, and we're like, okay, we need to make a change. Somebody's getting dropped. And like it was like a very communal decision. Like it was like everybody like talking to each other, trying to figure it out. And then we were supposed to be doing it all together and finding like the best fit and who would take a step back and stuff. But about a week into the whole roster mania, it became very man for themselves. Very, very conniving.
Old school. DMing you.
Wasn't there some weird... I vaguely remember, Joe and I were trying to talk about it. I vaguely remember some sort of drama that involved you and Ian, but I don't remember like what went down. Like, did I make that up in my head, or was there like some sort of shit that went down?
I mean, it was not really drama. It was more so just us being like pissy at each other. But like we didn't. There wasn't like crazy drama, but it was like feelings of animosity a little bit because at the start, And this FaZe had this guy named Seb, and if you read this, there was a report I just read about FaZe recently. He basically was like an investor guy that kind of took over operations in a way, and he's not involved with the company or anything anymore, but like he was very hands-on, and he was this Norwegian guy who was very I'm trying to think of the right word, just like front of mind present. Like he was just constantly trying to get like anything out of you, just like we would lose a match, and before I could wrap my controller up, he's calling my phone, and I had to answer it or I'd get fined. You know what I'm saying? Like very on the ball, like, hey, what the hell happened? Like, how did you guys lose? And so this guy, who's the guy we were dealing with this whole time, and we had finally figured it out. We were trading attach for Gunless, and the team was going to be me, Gunless, Enable, and Zuma, and that was going to be the FaZe team for the last couple of events. And then I went out for the night, came home the next day, woke up hungover to him spam calling me, Seb, and I pick it up and he goes, hey, you're getting dropped off the team. Like, we're trading you for Gunless, attached to staying on the team, yada, yada. And I was just like, bro, like, I was like, honestly, I'm so tired of this. Like, I had been on the phone with this guy so much. I was so tired of dealing with him. I was like, dude, you know what? Good luck. Go fuck yourself. And I hung up the phone. And dude, I think that pissed him off a lot because then like shit started going crazy. They're like, you got to be out of the house in the next month, yada yada. It was like this whole whirlwind of people freaking out and yada yada. But it was like, honestly, I just saw it as another chip on my shoulder. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to United and I'm gonna try my best to turn these guys into winners. And it kind of sets me up for the next 2.5 years or so. Like, we didn't do too bad at the end of IW either. Like, when I joined E United, like, we actually had some decent placings at Season 3 and then at Champs. Like, I think if we don't choke to Envy, we have a good chance of, like, winning Champs and IW. And a lot of people don't even give us credit for that because they just remember the literal worst choke in Champs history. And, like that uplink.
Bring it up, but
that Envy uplink at Champs and IW, I didn't watch it for like 3 years. I never, like, everyone's talking about, oh, there was a listen in the whole time. Like, oh, it was great. I didn't even watch it back after the tournament because when you lose at Champs, you're out. Like, who cares about the game that we just played? Like, there's no VOD to watch to get better for next year, So I didn't watch it for like 3 years. I watched it like 3 years later. It hurt just as bad and made me so upset. And I like turned it off and I haven't watched it since. Like, it still is like a dagger to the heart. Like,
you get capped back though, right? In Black Ops 4, that EG, that hard point, that Arsenal hard point. Yeah,
I had to get him back a little bit.
Yeah, you got him back though. Yeah, so it all worked out. It all worked out with the United. Yeah, you guys win Champs in Black Ops 4. You pick up the duo. And then the more bad luck kind of happens. 2.5 years, like you said, franchising hits. You're like, okay, now what? Yeah, go to Empire. You win another ring online with Empire, and then it goes to 4v4, and you're like, is this gonna happen again? Like, and it does. Like, what? Like, did you kind of know right away, or was there? Because there was some discussions, right? Because there was, you and Crim.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's so tough, dude. Like, to win a Champs, the last LAN, like CWL LAN Champs, BO2 Champs, to win that, like the classic style of Champs, where you group play through a whole bracket and have the run we did with that EG comeback and yada yada, we put together a team to last. Like, we put together a team that could potentially start doing stuff. We just went back to back at the 2 biggest tournaments of the year. And if you think about how good all of those players were at Modern Warfare, like, we would have been disgusting if we got into franchising, like our United team. We would have been very, very, very good. And I really was just like devastated over it. United kind of strung us along forever. And they eventually said they didn't get in, but I found a good team. I was like, oh my gosh, like Empire wants me, like Illy and Shotzi and Hook, like they want me. I know Shotzi's like an unknown, and then we get Crim on board, and we're like, hell yeah, let's do this. We win 3 tournaments that year. The 4th one we win was Champs Online. Feeling great. Oh, we're going back to 4v4. And I was just like, dude, like, I just did this again, and now it's gonna, like, It is so demoralizing. Like to build the United team over 2.5 years with Burns, with the twins, getting that fully tinkered and Simp and Abizi and Faceno and winning champs, and then having to do it again on Empire and getting Shotzi and Ilya and Hook and Crim and me and Rambo and doing it again. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I cried so hard after the Empire dropping, more than I've cried over anything, because it was just felt like I had tried so hard, and it was like the next day they pretty much told me after, like, we won champs, and then the next day we're like, oh yeah, like, you're probably the one to go, but we can discuss it. And so then it became like a thing of like me trying to convince people, and I'm just not that person. Like, if people don't want to play with me and people don't choose me, then like I don't really want to play with them. Like, I don't really want to be there. If the team wants to play with Crim, I get it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, but I'm such a good leader, you know, like, I'm not going to do it. If they don't see the value in me after a year of winning together, then I don't need to like stress myself out about it. But it was just like, you know, I talked to Stro, and they threw it around. He asked me to be like a fifth man and like sub in and stuff like that going into the next year. And they were considering keeping me on. Like, and I was like, dude, like, if this is what you guys want, like, I'll think about it, you know, but it was just one of those things where I really wanted to stay on the team. And then stuff kind of started shifting, and then eventually it was kind of like, oh no, we're doing this. Like, you're the one gone. We can't get rid of Zio, and it's either you or Crim. And Crim, I guess, just did enough to keep his spot on the team. Like, Mike, like Hastro said to me, he goes, I made the mistake of letting Crim go once. I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah. Well,
and so, you know, I was like, that was you.
Well, yeah, because in the AW, at the roster stuff. In the AW, it was supposed to be like us. And he was like, we're good. Like, all right.
It was just like, I get it, I guess. Like, he is the GOAT. Like, you know, if it was anyone else, I would be a lot more upset. But it being Porter, especially at the time about how I felt about him and how we just won champs together, and kind of we'd rekindled our relationship a lot more into like a good spot in that Empire team, because we were at odds after Complexity for a bit, and so then on the Empire team we kind of got a lot closer. And so, you know, I was like, whatever, you know, it sucks, but I'm gonna try to do something again. I mean, Zuma hit me up. Our team going into Cold War was supposed to be me, Zuma, Mac, and Pharaoh, and that was supposed to be the four of us that were playing on the team together. And then obviously, you know, rest in peace to my boy Pharaoh and what happened with him and all that stuff. And then Zuma had to quit competing, and then I'm picking up kids that don't speak English, and I'm teaming with people who I've never heard of before. And like, kind of like,
it gets crazy.
It kind of goes off the walls a little bit, because it was just like, there's so many moving parts. Like, it just, so much stuff happened at the beginning of Cold War, like leading into Cold War and at the beginning of Cold War, to just make that New York team such a question mark. And we still got a third. We still got a second. We still got top 6 at champs, beat Formal at his last event in COD. I love that. And, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, I still made the best of it, I feel like given the circumstances. Like, Paco did not speak English. He didn't.
Well, I think what I said this to Joe, like, even the broadcast team sort of felt like every time you got knocked down, you got back up and somehow won champs, or, you know, won events and like got back to like where you were. We were like all kind of just like half expecting that with the New York team, even though like it didn't have maybe some of the talent of the other teams you did it with. When you look back to the now, you look back to what you did with FaZe and then with Empire, like maybe a bit different, but like we still were like somehow, I mean, he could bring his 3 toddlers and he's going to win champs. Like, we still like had this belief, but then this was the first time, like you say you did the best you could with the situation, and I agree, but it was the first time like you didn't just like win champs, like you just kept fucking doing that somehow. So like this, then like, you know, Cold War, you know, you mentioned you got like a second major 3, top 6 of champs, but then like you go into Vanguard, I think it was like top 12 at the first major, and this was the first time that, like, I guess you sort of didn't maybe get fucked over in some weird ass way like it happened. The team just like didn't work out, and Clay apparently isn't God. It was some magic that's going to win champs. And then this is when I thought, like, I mean, this had to be the hardest time. I know you said after Empire, like, it was the hardest you cried and stuff, but like the year where I guess I want to hear about, like, the pit, like you have to get back into challengers. When you're going through that, like the stuff's done with NYSL, is that like the closest you've been to retiring? Were you thinking about retiring? Like, how fucked were you mentally? Like, when you were like, I have to go fucking play in challengers.
Yeah. It was an interesting experience. I'll say that. I think it was tough for me at the end of Cold War because this is right in the thick of COVID and being quarantined and not being able to see my friends or family or do anything that I normally do to
Like escape. Yeah.
to escape or get away from it. I took a break for one event at the end of Cold War, and then they asked me to come back and play at Champs and play for the last bit of the year. And I was feeling like I took probably like 3 weeks off, which is the first time I've done that in the middle of a season ever. And since like I started playing and really thought about what I wanted to do, and then they asked me to play again. I was like, I'm dedicating myself to it. I want to keep playing. And so then I played at Champs, get the Vanguard squad. My big mistake was picking up Porter again. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3 times,
Yeah.
I did get dropped by Porter 3 times, so that's hilarious. Twice
Circle
after.
back to that whole
Yeah.
you'd be right there in the go conversation with him and work for the unfortunate sequences. But now we find out that the Porter's been sabotaging the
whole
fuck out of
time.
you this entire
The whole
time.
time. The
Well,
whole
like you
time.
are just so different because, like you said, you're kind of like the more chill back. If they want to play with me, I'll play with them. Where like Porter is the guy like that makes like Rostermania stressful as hell because he's the guy that
Conversations
will
with
stay
them
up
or
48
Oh
hours
my
in a
God,
row
bro.
on phone calls with
Yeah.
everyone. Like, yo, I'll join the TS, join the TS. Like he's the one, like, bro, I'm telling you, like, if we play together, like, I'm telling you, dude, like, we're gonna fucking not, like, that's just him. Like, that's how
That
he
is
is
him.
making
That is
sure,
him.
like, he is always like on a Discord or a team speak. Like, he will make sure he's got his spot, and he knows who to convince. He like
that's
he
what
knows
he's good at.
he knows who he needs to convince. That's what he was always good at. Always. He always had his spot.
And it's funny you say that because I genuinely think the reason that I got benched off the subliners team is because he convinced the right people that he was the right choice. And they did
Learned
end up
that
seeing,
from Pat, I think.
Yeah, he did. He 100%
Yes,
learned that
Pat
from
was the
Pat,
same
like
way.
to a T, to a T.
Yep.
And it was so I get benched after the first event. We saw some success at the kickoff in Vanguard, and then we just absolutely got smoked. We tried the royalty experiment. We tried like two series in stage 2, and then I got benched. And I was sitting there, and I have been negotiating my own contracts forever. I don't have an agent that handles my COD stuff. I have an agent that handles like commercial, like brand deal stuff, but just not any of my COD contract negotiations. And so my contract, because of these series of unfortunate events, I have made sure that I had protections for myself inside the contracts that I negotiated from like E-United onwards, where I guaranteed that I was like the amount I was signing for, I would get paid regardless if I got traded or dropped or whatever. Like I made sure my contracts were basically guaranteed. And so when I get put on the bench in New York, I'm still getting paid every day. And I was kind of like,
that definitely helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot to just have that income there. And I'm like, well, now I have nothing to do. And then I'm like, okay, I could stream or like I could do whatever. But then I'm like, but what do I actually want to accomplish? Like, I want to get back in the league. Like, I want to get back on New York. Like, I'm still under contract with them. They're not releasing me because they have to pay me out regardless. So they might as well keep me on the roster in case something happens. And I had to go to every event. And I'm like, well, if I have to go to every event anyways, like New York was making me because I was a sub, then I'm like,
You're
I might as
right? That's like a league requirement, right?
Yes, yeah, because of COVID and stuff. And so I was like, if I'm doing this anyways, I might as well compete in challengers. And then maybe like I talked to a bunch of people and they're like, dude, it can only hurt you. Like, don't go do that. Like, it could only hurt your stock. Like, everybody knows who you are, what you bring to the table. Like, don't go play in challengers because unless you win everything, people are going to have something to say about it, And I was like, dude, I don't even really care. Like, if people do know who I am. Like, people know what I'm about. Like, I want to go down here because I love playing and competing and I'm going to be at these events anyways. So let me go compete.
Were you a little scared though that like, I guess I kind of view when you're as late in your career as you were at this time, for most players, like challengers at that point, sort of like the retirement community, the graveyard, whatever you want to call it. Like you go there and don't come back usually. Like were you sort of worried, like once I make that step, like this is it? Because I don't think there's pros that have been there for like that far in their career that have gone there and come back. I mean, it's happened with players newer or like maybe middle, but you were like deep in your career at that point.
I think that something I've always done and throughout the history of my COD career is bet on myself. And that's something that I take to heart like in my everyday life. Like if there's something that needs to be done or something that a challenge to overcome, I bet on myself like 100 times out of 100. Just the level of like perseverance that I think I have. Like, yeah, there was a risk. Yeah, I definitely was a little like nervous and anxious. Like, dude, I lost to Doug twice in challenges. Like, like I'm being honest. Like, that's not the best look. But dude, it was like, what else I did down there was I connected with a large amount of the amateur scene. I got to know so many players down there. Our top 6 finish here this last event with Two Real, like, I only was because I played challengers with him last year. Like, I'm not picking that kid up if I didn't know him and didn't play with him last year, like, and know what he's about and his mentality and just how he sees the game and the potential in him. So like, yeah, I was afraid and like I was definitely a little nervous, but I was sure of myself that like I can compete. Like, I can show up. I'm not going to play so bad that I won't get back in the league. Like, I'm going to go out there and do my thing. And then that first event that we played, I think Toronto Open, especially after playing so many years of the CDL and having CDL style tournaments, going and playing one of the old style tournaments fired me up. Like,
you were just yelling and Clay was back.
It was so fun. I had my hood up. I was chilling and just getting so hype after matches with like Spart and Fellow, and we were just having a blast, like playing like match after match. Like, we got knocked into losers and winners round 2 or 3 by Doug in a best of 3. Like, of course, like in my first Open tournament, I lose a best of 3 to Doug. Gotta make a crazy.
Here we go.
Yeah, dude, and we played back to back for like 8 matches in a row, and I got to send 8 different teams home and, Wave be like, enjoy the flight home, like, to 8 different teams, and just that just like fire and competitive environment and just like that, the aura of that, I don't know, it like reinvigorated my love for the game. And like, I found like my answer for why I wanted to do it, why I'm even still competing this year, why I'm still doing this is because like I love that. Like, that, just that feeling of beating a team and just standing up and looking at them and just like seeing, like, as like sadistic as it sounds, like the sadness in their face. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like pure misery and you're just spitting and yelling at them. Like, that feeling is unparalleled and nothing comes close to it. And I think that Toronto Open event was what really made me find my love for the game again.
So let me get this straight. I was talking to Joe about me thinking you were probably going through it during this time and wanted to retire, but instead you were on a paid vacation where you were scouting for your next big run while eating the tears of your victims to become more powerful.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we did talk about it too, though. It was different. Like, it's not like, I feel like sometimes, your vets or whatever that sort of get back into the pit, they have a lot of disappointing results. Like, you had one in Vanguard, like, and everybody kind of knew, like, this team just doesn't work. Like, that was literally the talk of the town. It's not like you were getting shit on and getting shit on and getting shit on and then going to challengers. So I think in a way, like, that kind of helped. Like, there have been some players who just got smoked out of the league. Probably, maybe they won't be back. Like, that's just different than sort of his situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like also just like, I wasn't all ponies and rainbows. Like, I wasn't just completely enjoying. Like, I wanted to be in the league. Like, I was like trying out for New York.
Way more positive than I fucking expected. Like, it was having a blast.
Yeah. And it was fun just because like there was no pressure. Like, really, like after that first event, like we didn't really win anything. Like, the only thing we actually, like, we won some cups and we qualified for some elites. And we won the last chance qualifier for champs. And it was like me, Fellow, Prestini, and I can't even remember who the fourth, like, it was somebody. And
I could look, I'll find it for you.
No, yeah, dude, that's another thing.
It's 6 different teams, I think. Like five or 6 different.
Venom, Los. Yeah, I should have remembered that. And I had 12 or 13, 14 different teammates in 3 months, and I had that in the last 3 years before that. So it was a very different experience. Even when you're going and playing on LAN on these challengers events, you're still online. You're just next to each other, so it's not even like everyone's still online. So all the onliners are still online. Like, we need the LANimals to show up on LAN, which is what I'm about, I need that LAN to dominate these kids, but we're still on 80 ping. And so it's a very different experience in challengers. and not something that I would have committed to for longer than the half a season that I did. Like, if I didn't get on a team this year, I would not have played Challengers this year. Like, it was like a stopgap. I was getting paid while I was doing it. I was having fun with one of my best friends, Tyler Fellow. We were playing these old school tournaments. So while I was still pining to be on a team and like was trying to get back into the league and trying to get back on a team, it wasn't the worst. Like, it truly wasn't.
Yeah. Well, it worked out, right? Because then you get to Legion. We're at the next stop of the Clayster ride. We're at Las Vegas Legion, no longer Paris Legion, coming in this year. I guess sort of end of the year of Vanguard going into this season. Was this, how did this go about getting on the Legion squad?
I mean, it was the last spot left, man. Like, as weird as that sounds,
Was there
but, like,
any other spots?
yeah, I mean, like, there were at the start, and I was in talks with probably, I would say, 6 of the 12 league teams, a rough number. All varying levels of compensation, all varying levels of requirements, like having to live in their specific city or not. There was probably about 5 or 6 that I was talking to that I could have went and played for. And after all the stuff that happened with me in my personal life, I basically just kind of like didn't interact or entertain or wasn't really texting anybody or communicating with anybody during the off season. And so all the spots got filled. And so then when I came out of it onto the other side, basically, there was just no teams left. Like, all the spots had been filled, all the rosters had been figured out, and the only spot left was the Legion. And it was a massive, massive, massive pay cut. But it's also, I think, some of the most money that Legion has ever spent on their COD roster. And so, it was a massive lifestyle change for me, making less than a third of what I'd made since United, basically. But I had to make the decision. I want to compete. I want to still play. I think the first major and this third major have shown that, I still love what I do and love the guys that I'm playing with, even though it's a bit like the old days sometimes, all being at home, not in a facility. Still we have that little back and forth banter a lot more than some of my other teams recently, just because we're all very strong personalities on this Legion team. So
yeah, I bet.
We formed the team and it wasn't really figured out yet. I hit up Donnie and Theory. It was just them two to begin with. We started theory crafting. Okay, what subs do we want? Here's a short list. Let's go out there and get who we want. And I really wanted ProLoot at the time. I thought ProLoot had a lot to bring to the table, just his mentality and his intelligence for the game. And we kind of then asked him, who do you want to play with? Like, who do you think is a good sub duo for you to play with? And TJ Haley, obviously being a veteran player, but he played flex last year on Boston. Like, he ran an AR half the time, and so then that was kind of a question mark. It's like, we kind of have 3 ARs a little bit. And then Byron ProLoot also played AR a little bit on Optic, so it's like, wait, do we have 4 ARs on the team? Like, but they're both actual subs. They wanted to run sub. They just happened to run a little bit of flex and Vanguard, just because you kind of needed that sometimes, like that auto flex role a lot of the time in Vanguard. And so we put together the team, and I mean, honestly, I think we performed better than people expected us to, especially at the first major.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. So, yeah, I mean, we're just curious how you guys got onto that squad. But, yeah, you talked about your personalities. I assume it's probably you and Donnie. I just want to know, dude, because, like, you guys, I got to know how that dynamic is. I assume it could be very day-to-day because you two both have, strong personalities.
Yeah, I think day-to-day is probably the best way to describe it.
Okay, maybe even map to map.
Literally. You might know us a little too well there, Joey. It's we're both very emotional people. I think this is a good way to put it. And I think that we are both very passionate about what we do, and both are also very stubborn and believing that we are correct a lot of the time. So I think, honestly, me and Don have gotten to a point where, like, we know if we are talking to each other and he says something to me, I know now that, like, he actually sees something I don't, and I'll listen to what he says. And I think he's finally come around to where, like, he listens. Like, if I don't speak a ton, I don't just speak to speak, or like if we're talking about a play and there's kind of a debate about what's the right like what's the correct play, like, to do for Donnie, if I don't know, I don't just say something. Like, I'm not just like, oh, just go do this and this is how it works. If I'm looking at it like, damn, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like I just don't say anything. So when I do speak, he knows there's weight behind it, that I've thought about it, that there's some logic behind it. And I feel like we're on mutual ground now, to where, although it might sound like we're like we're kind of being very chippy towards each other sometimes, it's comes from a place of just like, hey
Passion.
man, like, yeah, passion. I don't know, however you want to put it, but our scrims are very interesting. Our comms are hilarious a lot of the time. I mean, if you watched our latest comeback video, you heard me tell him to shut up in the middle of a comeback. So it's hilarious, our dynamic, and it's something that honestly I can't wait to see where it takes us. I think we got a good chance the rest of the year.
Well, we kind of expected that with Temp, and it's that's amazing to hear. But I want to know, like, listen, after everything you've gone through, I'm sure just getting on the team, a lot of this was individual in the sense of like, here we go again, time to show what I can do. But I just want to know, like, with how, I guess, embarrassing, Legion had been as a franchise, and, you'd kind of hopped all over the place with regards to where your home was. Was there a little bit of, I guess, since I'm watching The Last Dance, I think of when Jordan, listen, I'm not calling you Jordan, shut the fuck up. But when Jordan, like, joined the Bulls, he was sort of like, I want to help put this city on the map for basketball. Like, was there a little bit of just sort of, I guess, pride for you, like, with how much they've struggled, like, I'm going to be the face of this franchise and turn this shit around?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a selling point for me. I mean, let me flex my muscles a little bit, see what I can do. Like, not only competitive wise, but brand wise. I mean, you see how many people were in Legion merch. You hear the crowd cheering for us against LA Thieves, who is one of the bigger organizations in COD. I mean, dude, it's
outside of Seth, it's you when it comes to like brand.
And I obviously have taken a huge step back in my content creation game and my brand game. So to still see that I have the support just for being like the OG, and people like have watched at least some of my content or appreciate my game or my energy or whatever it is. Like, even after this last major, I was hanging out at the Optic party, and I had some people who I'd never spoken to come up and they're like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I work in the business side of things, but like, I love your energy on stage. Like, that made me feel like awesome when you guys were like up there screaming and stuff. And it's like, that kind of just reinforcement that there are people out there that enjoy what I do and that enjoy what I put together and that believe in things and like to root for the underdog. And I mean, even looking at the roster we're putting together now, like Vegas, we've now made 2 roster changes and we're putting together a squad that's starting to kind of, look for, like, you know what I'm saying? And there's some noise to be made, and that's something that I definitely looked at, and it's something I talked to the owner about, Drew, and it's something now, like the COO of the chief operating officer, Mario, he comes to the events, and like he apparently had never been to an event before this year, and so I'm starting to get them to believe in it a little bit, and the org is starting to like, invest a little more money, and kind of like everybody, not only me, but my teammates, the coaching staff, the ownership of the team, the fans of the team are starting to believe. And I think that's something that I was looking forward to hopefully accomplishing on this team. And I think we are in the midst of doing that. We're right on the champs cusp. And I think that's like the first major step we can take as an organization, is to get them that qualification for champs.
I wasn't sold right away. I've seen too many of fucking Clay's redemption stories. At this point, it's like, fuck you, Clay. Like, you're gonna get it done one way or another. But like, the emotional interview, at Major One, where you on stage and you were crying or about to fucking cry, whatever, you were close. That I watched that, I was like, this motherfucker reeled me in again. He reeled me in again. I give a shit again. You piece of shit. You can just tell how much you love it, man. It just it was so good.
Yeah, this Major One win, it's such a weird thing. I was actually talking to my brother about this recently. We beat Minnesota Rocker for top 6. Now, we didn't win the fucking tournament. We didn't even get second. It's not even some crazy thing we accomplished. We got top 6 at the first tournament of the year, and I was almost about to cry. I had to get off that stage and end it really quick because I was 100% about to start crying. And when I start crying, I can't talk. Like, I get very choked up, and it would have been a mess up there, and I was just like, I got to get off of here. And I literally, like, went after this interview, I went and sat in the parking garage, and I chain smoked a bunch of cigarettes, and I called my mom and sat on the phone with my mom, like, crying to my mom for like 30 minutes. Man. And it was like just like an almost meaningless tournament match that meant so much to me after the year that I'd had prior. And I think like just that weight of something as small as winning a game 5 round 11 in front of a crowd that's supporting you. There's something special about it, and there's something that brings something out of me, and that like rarely comes out in other places. And so I just think that it's such a special thing. Like, I want to keep doing that as long as I can. Like, I'll keep chasing that dragon for as long as I live, honestly.
Yeah. So you guys get top 6 in Major 1. You've had some ups and downs now. You talked about roster changes. One thing I'm actually interested is Naga, is he a part of this squad now? Nagafen?
Yes, Nagafen is helping. He's been helping us coach since we dropped Byron for 2 Real. So okay. Jared's been around now for, I don't know, what is it, a month and a half, something like that. And
yeah, I was just curious about him. What aspect he brings in. Nagafen, I think, is one of the more underrated like COD players, in a long time. He looks at the game differently. I feel like he always had. So I think it probably helps Theory a lot. But I mean, stage 3, Major 3 went well for you. He had success in challengers. So just the addition of him to the team.
I played World of Warcraft with him. He's a geek. Dork, dude.
He's yoked now, though. He is built now. He's been hitting the gym heavy. He's got some muscle on him. He went from like fragile, frail Naga to now he's Jared. Like he's Jared now.
You gotta call him Jared now.
Coach Jared. And honestly, he's brought a lot to the team. He's actually on a like kind of trial basis right now. I don't think he's actually under Legion, like getting paid by Legion right now, but we all cut him in on the prize money. Like, I think we're all giving him $500 out of the 2K we made or something like that. And honestly, just like making sure we cut him off for his time, because I approached him like, hey man, we don't have anything in the budget for you. But like, I would love to have you sit in our scrims every day and see what you can bring to the team. If we decide you're a good fit, we'll figure out a way to pay for your flights and your hotel and get you to these events, and you can like help coach us. And also, it's kind of like for him, there's only 12 head coaching spots. So for him to get his foot in the door a little bit and start proving his worth, he might have a full salaried position in the future. And it was completely voluntary by him too. I was like, dude, I know this sucks. Like, I wish I could pay you money. I wish I was getting paid what I was getting paid on subliners, because then I could actually pay you. You know what I'm saying? But with the pay cut I took here, like, I don't have just like out of pocket money to hand you, and it would have to be something like you want to do, And he was like, dude, I want it. Like, I want to like get my I want to actually come help you guys. I think this is a good story. I like you. Awesome. I like Don. I like Theory. Like, I can help mold you guys. And he's helped so much. And it's something that I talked about a little bit on some other podcasts and stuff, or other interviews, where basically like getting the Legion to believe in that we can win. And I think with Donnie and Theory having dealt with the year that they dealt with last year and even the year before, they had like a losing mentality, where their mentality was just so battered and bruised and broken down that they just like had the taste all over of just losing, And exactly, like that's what I'm trying to get them to do. And I think like Jared helped a lot with that, because sometimes Theory, our head coach, would just get very like, you could tell almost down on himself, down on the team a little bit, and start like not believing in that what he's doing is correct. And then Jared kind of comes in with a more analytical, logical, like, hey, this needs to be done because you keep dying here, go here and do this. Instead of trying to like fix broken teams and whatnot, Jared's much more analytical, while Theory is much more like broad stroke, like philosophy type stuff. And so I think it's a really good balance between them two, not only because of what they bring to the table, but just because of kind of like the contrasting personalities that they have. It works very well in like a good cop, bad cop kind of way. Not necessarily say that McGee's yelling at us or anything, but he does yell sometimes.
There's a reason that I think every professional sport has multiple coaches for different things. I mean, that's just part of it. Not that, it's like the NFL, you've got who knows how many coaches are on an NFL team for like every player position, it feels like. But yeah, I'm sure it's just a lot to cover for one person. And I love Naga, so that's cool to hear. Hopefully it leads to something, maybe with you guys performing well and he sees his value, he gets Legion's able to pay him, or maybe he finds a gig somewhere else. But I don't know. I've always been a fan of Naga. Good dude.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. Shout out Jared.
So what? Now you guys bring in Standy for Pro Loot. I think everyone's pretty excited about this, right? What you kind of said, it feels like Standy with the Ultra team just kind of it just felt like the chemistry didn't work, similar to maybe like your New York team. They were still top 4, top 6, but you bring in I think a very sort of a slaying sub. I think you guys were missing that a bit with the last couple of duos. I think you saw moments from Too Real, moments from TJ, moments from Proloop, but like that slaying consistent sub, which every other team has, right? It just felt you were missing that. And Standy has been that before. If you look like when he debuted on Rocker, like he was their star. And I think he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder where he wants to get back to the community talking to him like that. Like, I want to be that guy. So, just talk about, bringing Standy on.
Yeah, I think obviously Too Real brought a lot to our team and helped us get right in a lot of kind of just rotational intelligence like styles to the game. And we honestly didn't really even plan on changing. We were going to keep rocking with Too Real. Legion only has so much budget that they allocate every year, and there was only, I think they budget for 2 roster changes a year because they have to pay out severance for the 2 players that they end up dropping, and so they only budget a certain amount. So we can only maximum change twice a year. So like if we were to change Brendan, we had to be sure for the rest of the year like what the team was going to be. And we're going through all these options, and Legion was willing to pay a little bit of money for a buyout, but nothing anywhere close to what it would take to get some of the top tier challenger players that are under some of these contracts with other CDL franchises. And so we had to look for somebody that was unrestricted pretty much. And so that's why Too Real to begin with was interesting to us, because he was an unrestricted free agent. He wasn't signed to a CDL contract anywhere, an academy team or anything like that. I think his buyout was $1,000, which I think he paid for. And honestly, we were like, we had a list of players, and we eventually got, that was our team. And then we were trying to get Standy apparently, and this was before all the stuff happened with Toronto, before they even won the major, before we even had Too Real and stuff. And they were like, no. And then all of a sudden we just like see he's an unrestricted free agent, and that Toronto just released him, and we were like, well, like, I don't know. Like, now we're kind of in a weird spot. Like, now we have to make a decision. And honestly, it was just a matter of, like you were saying, that slaying sub, like somebody who can come in and compete against the top subs in the world. The FaZe subs, the Boston subs, the Optic subs, like the people who are gonna be running and frying. Like, you got to be able to stand your ground and shoot back. And not to say that Brendan wasn't, because he definitely had his moments, and especially in a lot of the series this past stage. Yeah, it's not to down talk him at all, but it felt in a way that this is the path that gave us the best chance going forward. And we talked about it a lot, and it was eventually just one of those things where it's like, all right, man, like, hey, if this is our best path to win this year right now, let's do it. Let's do it.
I think kind of what you said, obviously COD in this esport and every esport, you get very in depth and move here, move there. But sometimes even, as back when I played, you had to take a step back, kind of like what you said in AW. It's like, you just sometimes have to find more kills. And I know that's not always the answer, and it's not the answer that people want, but we are playing an FPS. You're playing COD, and a lot of like those movements in the analytical side comes a lot easier when lanes are opening up and a couple of more kills are found.
Yeah, well, and I think
that's not what Ultra needed, but it is what you need. I mean, They had a Kleenex. They needed somebody like Hixie. You needed more firepower. Like I think it seems like a good. I get it. But I mean,
yeah, and it's even interesting, like you were saying, Joe, is that like when those kills are found, the game is a lot easier, so you're going to break a lot more because you're getting more kills, so you're going to hold a lot more. And we even dealt with this in scrims yesterday. Theory was like, yo, y'all's comms have fallen off. And it's like, dude, the kill feed is all the other team for the last 10 kills. Like, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say, dude. We all just died. Like, it's like, you're only saying red dots. And I'm like, because we all died. There's nothing else to say, And it genuinely does come down to, like, who can kill the other people more? Like, genuinely, in those situations, you need to pop a 2-piece. Can you get that 2-piece? In the situation where you need to win your 1v1, can you win your 1v1? And what has the most what has the highest percentage of that, And that's literally where we saw this roster move, and we're just like, honestly, it's not like we have a lot to lose. We're in 9th place. We're trying to qualify for champs. Let's just shoot for the stars, Let's go for what gives us the best chance. See how it turns out.
Yeah, no, 100%. Looking forward to it. before we get into sort of your upcoming schedule, and we have some community questions as well. There is one consistency for the Legion this year. You guys are 5-19 on the year in control. You lost the last 7 in a row. So I mean, I'm just curious, what's going on from like your point of view. You've played all 3 maps. Might be a different map coming in. I mean, potentially if the game gets fixed, but sort of what's going on in control this year from like your point of view.
It just feels so hard sometimes. Like I don't know what it is, dude. We've thought of everything. Like obviously we are aware of what's going on, right? Like we play control every day in scrims, and it's crazy. We're like a 45% win rate in scrims. So it's like pretty good, like not terrible. Like, it's below average, but at least we're winning about 1 in every 2. And then we get in matches and it's just like the pressure is just like on us and they're in like spawn killing us and we can't get out, and then we're just like, oh, okay, well we lose. It felt a lot like every
you need
mode.
to work on your comms when you guys die. Shout out Fury.
Every mode is kill dependent, but control is literally kill dependent. Like you have 30 lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just we're just not getting enough kill. It's like I don't know. Like it genuinely feels like my issue with our control gameplay is that we don't do what other teams do to us. So like my number one learning experience in COD is taking shit from other teams. Like if New York spawn traps us in a way, I'm like, bro, you see what Caesar's doing right here? Like you see how Paco's playing this? Like do this. Like this is godlike, and I implement it in our gameplay. And we'll like go over it and be like, all right, when we get a wave of kills, run into these positions and spawn trap them. And then like we go to run into them, we all just die. And then they're on the point stacking. And then we're all like panicking. And then we all die again. And they transition point and get the other point and they win the round. And we're like, well, like we talked about it. Like what? Like I don't know.
That is kind of with the whole like standy thing. That is kind of a mindset, right? Because like Too Real and TJ and Pro Loot, like they've had to, they play maybe the dirty role, like dirty work role, where they're getting on the point where maybe their next thought isn't like, okay, I'm gonna go spawn kill. I'm gonna go to this box, this heady, and like let everyone else funnel in behind me. Where maybe that's like something Standy can bring to you guys.
We've looked a lot better on control the last couple of days in scrims, so hopefully it translates. We're winning a silos 3-0, which we'd never done before, and hopefully Fortress control is out and there's a new map, so we'll just get good at that map.
Well, speaking of Fortress, though, you guys, right when this team formed, you guys were good at search, right? That's what clicked. That's what got you through the league matches. You were like Nesloing people. You just needed like your search wins. You've improved on some other spots, but Joe kind of said like this new map might be coming. You guys are 8-1 on Fortress Search. That could go away. I mean, who knows? Like then now do you have concerns around that game mode if suddenly your best search is gone?
Yeah, I think there's concerns about our search in general right now. I mean, we've had 2 roster changes now. I don't even think we were fully comfortable there on it with Too Real, and now we gotta do it again with Eli. But I think that you have really strong search players, and myself and Donnie and Teej, and it doesn't really matter who the 4th player is. It's like, and Eli does bring some good search talent there too. And like you said, Joe, like he has that kind of killer mentality in his mindset, but he's also still going to be like carrying bombs and stuff like that, helping with the objective work. So it's not just going to be only on Teej or something to carry bombs. And it's, it's a bit worrisome, but I think like we were 8-0 on that Fortress S&D leading into the Boston series, but that just means they have 8 maps of film to watch on a map where there's only so many things to do. So if they actually prepped, which they did,
one thing to do, basically.
Yeah, there's one thing to do. There's one spot to sit in. So it's like I was getting pre-naded by 3 grenades in my spot that I sit in. And I was like, finally, it took 9 maps of playing this in tournaments, but I'm finally getting hard countered on the 9th fucking map of playing this map. Like people realize, hey, play to this fucking spot, and it's just like. It's worrisome, but I also think that the best search like style isn't like a game plan like not game plan, that's the wrong word, like a strategy oriented. Yeah, you have to be reactive. Your option, like your tree branches that like, so it's like, okay, we're going A, And then it's like, is there anyone here? Is there 2 players here? Or like, okay, if there's 0 people in the bomb site, the next branch, like, get bomb down, set up in the clutch spots. If there's 1 person in here, stun him out, nade him out, somebody go here, somebody do this. So like the branches that come off of the plays and like how we call them option plays, how that is all coordinated is more important than anything else. Like you can't, like your initial strat is just like the opening the door, and then the act of like actually walking through it and closing it behind you is a whole different story. And I think that gets lost in a lot of COD players is they think like, oh, we're doing our B strat. It's like your B strat, but what if they stack it? Like what if there's like a guy? What if we die? What if this happens?
What
like,
about post plant? Yeah, no, exactly. It gets crazy.
Yeah, people don't think about past like the first 10 seconds of a round. So I think like that's what like puts us kind of a little bit ahead of a lot of people is that we do think about it in a much more dynamic, adaptive kind of route tree.
Makes sense. I mean, one good thing is your guys' hardpoint got a lot better, at the major. I mean, insane comebacks, but it just seems to be in a much better place. Looking forward, though, stage 4 starts next weekend. And I think you guys, you're 20 points away from the 8th seed. That team is struggling. That team is struggling right now. A roster, though, that can turn it around. But 20 points away. And I think, you have a pretty juicy schedule. You play Boston, you play London, you play LAG, Ultra, and Mutineers. Obviously, you have Boston and Ultra in there who are, probably 2 of the top 4, top 6 teams, wherever you want to put them. But the other 3, I mean, we've seen it all year. 3 and 2 could get you in the winners bracket. So this seems like a very good chance for you guys to make up some ground, but also start in that ever so elusive winners round 1.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, I mean, that is the true first step for Legion is getting a winners bracket spot first, because we almost did it last stage. We choked pretty hard. I mean, we had the hardest stage out of anyone last stage, and ended up managing to beat Thieves, and then only had to win against it was like Rocker and Gorillas, and we lost to Gorillas. And so we kind of shot ourselves in the foot last stage. We realized, we had the quote-unquote hardest stage last stage, and we still could have qualified playing a quote-unquote easy team and still fumbled it. So we're not we're not counting ahead of ourselves at all right here. We're looking at this like, okay, we need to get a lot better by March 31st. We got 5 days or 6 days. Let's, put the pedal to the metal. Let's come out firing for this Boston Breach series and try and go up 1-0. Like try and go win the first map, try and win the second map. We're looking at it as a very singular thing, and with map count, with how everything comes, like, yeah, people might say, oh, it's an easy strength schedule. You got Gorillas, Ravens, and Mutineers, but
no, this is all. I mean, London's getting better, right? Boston obviously had a very good. LAG still a very solid squad. Obviously, Alex just got injured. It's not like the easiest schedule. I mean, I don't think there's an easy match. I was just saying, I think there's a chance for you here. Also just defending champs. There's a chance for you guys here to pick up points.
It's probably your best looking schedule to get winners, though. If we're just going to be honest, like
it is the 10th, 11th, and 12th teams in the state. So, to be fair, it's a fair assumption to make. But I just don't think there's any like free wins in COD anymore.
Of course.
In the
but
Pro
if I
League,
look at get winners, you bitch.
Yeah, this is the one to do it. We should be able to do it this one, but like I said, we got to get better by then. We got a couple days before then, and hopefully come out swinging.
You and I, we're gonna a couple questions from like Joe and I. Then we're gonna move into some community questions. But best of luck to you and Paris, the new squad, obviously. But
Las Vegas, Maven, not Paris.
Oh, did I say Paris? Las
you
Vegas,
did.
Jeez, dude. Legion, Las Vegas Legion. My brain's still old. You and I have talked about this a bit because I think I always ask you if you thought about maybe being a broadcaster, like on the desk, or a caster. And you kind of always said, nah, you don't think that's like sort of your vibe for what's next. And when we talked, like you were like content creation, maybe you sort of, when we would chat, and granted we were probably hammered like talking after an event, like you never seemed like super set in what you wanted. Now with the last couple of years and how stuff has gone, have you given more thought to what's maybe next after this thing's done?
Yeah, I put more thought into it. I have not come to any more cleaner of a conclusion. I'm
chasing the dragon.
Yeah. I'm riding this wave until I fall off, man. I'll figure that out when I'm done. I don't have other than something like music. But it's like, how would I translate a path in pro gaming to then a path in like a career in music? And but that's
you
just
and Temp, bro, a duo record. Holy fuck.
So far away from each other that it's kind of like I don't know how to mesh that yet. And I don't know. Like, obviously, I have a deep love for COD and the COD community and a lot of the pros and you guys and just everybody in the whole scene. Like, I just been around so long. I have a lot of love for everybody. And I would love to stick around in some capacity. Like, maybe it is me on the desk or analyzing or commentating or, whatever it is. Just, I don't know. I do, as I get a little older, I'm getting a little more nostalgic. And it's like, I don't know if I really want to ever just be separated from everybody. Because, like, if I didn't, like, have any kind of work or relationships with everybody, would I just, like, lose 90% of my friends? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously not, but just those connections and stuff. Like, I still think it's yet to be determined. Like, I could say, yeah, now, like, oh, I don't want to be a streamer or I don't want to cast or anything. But if I'm done competing and I get the offer to do it, I might see it as another challenge, as something else, as a next chapter or something else to do. So it's up in the air. I'm focused on competing right now, and I'm going till the wheels fall off, baby.
Listen, you stuck around through these last 4, some of these COD titles, bro. You might be competing forever. You might be actually competing forever.
I'm like right there with you though. Like I just am like, I'm gonna cast till I die on camera. And if I suddenly am not, if I'm not suddenly casting, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do, but I'm casting as long as I can. I get it.
Yeah. No, he's gonna live forever. He's gonna live somehow. Maven's gonna live past all of us. I don't really know how, but he will.
There's lots of water in it.
Well, I drink lots of water. Yeah,
it's all that sun. And that's all that sun.
It's all that sun. All right. Also tweeted out some community questions, so we will get towards those. Some funny ones, some serious ones. This one's from JKL, the Deserto guy. He is just curious, do you ever feel like you don't get enough respect in the GOAT discussion?
I don't know, the Crim sabotage. Like
I feel like you're always top 5, but I guess it's like a GOAT. Or do you not really care? You're just worried about your next map.
I don't really give a fuck, like, to be honest. Like, okay. I think that's something that I did chase when I was younger, is like being the best COD player, being the #1 earner, or having the most championships. But I think as I've gotten older and gained more perspective on the scene as a whole, the fact that I'm mentioned in the conversation as one of the best Call of Duty players of all time is all that I really care about. Like, you can sit there and semantic out, everything, little thing. But in the end, the fact that, like, my legacy, what I've accomplished, what I've done for this game, what I've contributed to my teams and the organizations I've played for is recognized by the community as a whole. And I do think I am, like, underappreciated a little bit. But I think that comes with the territory. That just has always been my career. I always rub some people the wrong way. Some people don't always see the full value in the stuff that I do and the things that I say. And I get that. I mean, that's just life. And I don't really let it bother me at all. I think it's more so like, like, it's sometimes when I stop teaming with teammates, we're always at odds. But within like a year or two, they always hit me up and be like, yo, I'm sorry, I was being kind of an asshole. Like, I apologize. And it's like, you know what? They always come say, yeah, thank you, And I feel like I get that a lot. And so while I come off as abrasive, and especially people who don't really know me, they kind of have an idea of who I am. And then they meet me and they're like, oh, Clayster and Clay are 2 different fucking people. Like, the person I am on that stage versus the person I am at the bar having a drink is completely night and day. And I think once people realize that, they start appreciating me a little more. So the fact that I'm even the fact that I'm in the conversation, I'll take that.
I will say though that the big 4 ahead of you are all gone now. So this is your chance to.
This is my first chance, man.
This is your good chance. This is your good chance. This one is from Mr. KFD. He was just curious, what is your goal this season as a team and as a player? And I think that's fair with like Legion. I don't know how you came into the season, like, with this roster. Like you said, it was sort of the last roster spot. Like, were you thinking qualify for champs? Sort of what's your goal this year?
I mean, the goal is always to win a tournament, win champs.
Sure.
That's always the goal. But realistic goal, is it's at the start of the year, I came into it saying I would help them get the champs. I'd help the team qualify for champs, do enough, and get there. Because once you get to the dance, anything can happen. And so, as I joined the team and gained a little more understanding and knowledge of the team, like I said, getting winners bracket is actually the first step that we have to do. That's the first goal that we have to accomplish. I didn't realize that they had never made one in like the history of this like new format last 2 years.
They've been real bad, bro. Real bad.
And I didn't realize they hadn't made a single winners bracket. So getting a winners bracket spot is number 1. Breaking through the top 6 barrier, number 2. And number 3 is get a set qualification for champs. And then obviously, hopefully win that thing.
I didn't either. If it makes you feel better, I had no
I
idea.
did. I mean, before Clay, they had like 40 total CDL points. Like,
Well, the first year of MW, though, they were pretty good. Like they were decent. Like the
Yeah,
first
but
year.
I think that
But
year.
that was before, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're counting after that.
Yeah, no, they
For
definitely
Cold
were.
War and Vanguard.
I just think of him setting like some sort of record. What felt like every couple of months. That was not a good record. Like most matches
Jesus.
lost in a row. No, like that's what it was. But that's what I'm saying. Like you're there to turn that around. That's why I think it makes such a good story. And that's why you're like the underdogs because they were. I mean, they were good.
Yeah.
And now a chance to turn that around. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Last one. This is from Doug's pull-up bar. He wants to know, will we ever see the ponytail again? Is it ever coming back?
I have wanted to bring it back very
There's a
badly.
want. Let's go.
There's a
Let's get
want
it.
inside, but there is also a girlfriend blockade. And if people watching this actually want the ponytail back, you guys need to all tweet at Luna and convince her to let me bring it back. Because she said, she's not having it. She'll cut it off in my sleep if I try and grow it out. Hey, it's on Luna. So
I will text
spam her if you
DM
want
and tweet her every day for a
Bro,
year.
I just want you to win with the ponytail and then just like have like a 6-pack of beer and just going nuts with it, dude. Just champagne shower just everywhere. That would be the best thing
I just want to pull on it.
Oh, Jesus.
Anyways, Clay, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you if they want to check out your content? Is it just Clayster everywhere?
Yeah, it's Clayster everywhere. I'm such an OG. I got the original handle on literally everything: Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you want to follow me, at Clayster, baby.
Yeah, no, thank you. And honestly, that went. We tried to be right around like 90 minutes, considering your entire career and stuff. And that went pretty well.
Tough. We could have talked forever.
Oh, we skipped. When Joe and I were just deleting stuff on the dock, we had like every other couple lines. We're gonna get rid of that. But no, it was very cool of you to come on because I know you got a lot going on. And listen, good luck. You just made the change. This is the run to try and get winners bracket. So thanks and good luck. And everybody watching, this is the Toronto Ultra Merk and Maven podcast. Have a fantastic evening.
It's a pleasure chatting, boys.
I love you.